Okay, so it looks like maybe 10.
Okay.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and council members. My name is Jim Miller. I live at 2463 Peacock Lane and am a 37-year Corona resident. The posting of the national motto in the Corona City Council chamber would be a sign of the determination of this community to remain firm in the traditions of our founding fathers. This nation was formed as a democratic republic with the intent that the majority of the population would elect leaders who would establish laws that reflect our common beliefs. The Bill of Rights was a major accomplishment of expressing what we hold dear and are prepared to defend. All laws we make should be measured against this baseline. The majority still believe that we all have the same Heavenly Father, often referred to as God, that we have the freedom to worship as we choose, even if we wish to deny God, that we love and work to support our families, that government should protect our individual rights, and that government should not lead us to educational, physical, financial, or spiritual ruin. There has always been and will continue to be those who express an opinion opposed to the majority. They have a right for their opinion to be heard, but no right to impose their will on the majority. The unsavory term politically correct is simply an attempt to circumvent the majority and impose limitations on our lives that are unwanted, deceptive, fail to enhance the well-being of our society, and at times are contrary to God's commandments. There should be no shame in having "In God We Trust" emblazoned on our government buildings. After all, it is He who knows all things and is our loving spiritual Father. Our forefathers prayed to God for direction as this nation was conceived. They had faith in Him that assisted them to establish this land from the rule of a king and open to those of various faiths, provided they did not violate our basic rights. In conclusion, I would simply like to say the idea of posting "In God We Trust" somewhere on city property, perhaps outside the building, might be better, because it would be seen by more people, but it is not a necessity. My key concern is that we always continue to two things: have an invocation in which we invoke God's blessing upon the proceedings of the council, and that we continue to pledge our allegiance to the flag, in which we recognize that this is one nation under God. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, City Council, Honorable Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am speaking in favor of the motion this evening. I have lived in Corona since 1966. I support this strongly. I had the pleasure of being at the City Council meeting in Norco and also in Eastvale when this motion was passed. And the City of Norco proudly displays it behind the council chambers, so anybody that's sitting there in the audience sees that. I don't think Eastvale has put it up yet because they don't have a permanent place. But when they do, they voted to put it behind. I support that strongly. I think this fits into with our community and certainly with our country. So I ask you to in favor of it. And I believe, Councilman Spiegel, that there's already formats and information as to how it's been done in several cities. So there's not a lot of things that you have to go through to do this. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Michael Lance, 1979 Adobe Avenue in Corona. 20-year citizen here. We've lived in the same home those 20 years. We have volunteered at Little League. We have made many wonderful relationships in town. And Randy, I'd just like to say to you that 1 Samuel 2:30 says, "Those who honor me, I will honor." This particular motto, in many ways, should be a no-brainer to the city of Corona. This is our heritage. This is what our country was founded upon. This is what the majority believes. It's all over our Capitol buildings. It is really something that, to me, is simply, as I said, a no-brainer. I think our founding fathers might be turning over in their graves knowing that we were even arguing about this. I would also say that I've sent a letter to each of the council members, and I appreciate your service in the community. I appreciate what you stand for. I've been pastoring in this city for 17 years. I'm not at a lot of the council meetings because we have a Wednesday night service. And so, but I appreciate what you guys do. I was thinking about whether or not this would really matter to me and my family if this was in the council chambers. Would it really affect my everyday life? And in many ways, I guess it wouldn't. But I want to go back to the foundation and heritage of our country. Our country is founded on the Judeo-Christian ethic of what is found in both the Old and New Testaments. It is really what has governed our society and shaped our laws. And I think it's really important to not only think about now, but to think about a legacy 10, 20, or 50 years from now. I would like to know that my grandchildren or my children in future generations could know that this city trusted in God just like this nation has. And I believe it's very important. I would like to see you all vote on this tonight. I'm obviously very much in favor of it. And I appreciate you hearing us out. Thank you for your public service. And God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Council. My name is Douglas V. Gibbs. I'm a local historian and instructor on the U.S. Constitution. And even though I drove down here, or up here, I guess, from Murrieta, I'm actually call Corona my home. I grew up here in Corona. I graduated Corona High School in 1984. And my wife and I both met and married in Corona. And our parents and our siblings are all here in Corona. When I first heard about this from other Corona residents about Randy Fox's recommendation, I was actually stunned because I figured you had already done it. I was surprised that In God We Trust wasn't already emblazoned in this city. I knew that Eastvale and Norco had already made the decision, as well as Canyon Lake and Murrieta. I just came down here to not only give my support, but to remind you that the Declaration of Independence begins with words about how our rights are God-given, and ends with how the Founding Fathers put on the line their lives, their fortunes, the sacred honor, with mutually pledged out with a belief that they have the protection of divine providence, and that they believe that divine providence was behind the creation of this nation and the success of this nation, and that it would move forward that way because of it. Also, just because it's the national motto, as Ms. Beagle said, I think is a great reason also, because it is an important part of our heritage, an important part of our nation. And I appreciate the fact that Randy Fox has made the suggestion, and I urge the council to approve this and put it where everybody can see it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor and Council,
Good evening.
thank you for your time. My name is Don Lompre, and I've been a 33-year resident of Corona and a previous city employee as well, so I'm familiar with a lot of faces up here. My address is 3071 Pinehurst Drive, and from listening to council sessions, it's interesting to see the diversity on the council, and it's a good thing. I think it covers a broad base of people who have interest and desires in the city of Corona. And I myself side with Randy's interpretation and willingness to listen to the people's cry for the In God We Trust motto placed in Corona. Our neighboring cities, of course, as we've mentioned, have adopted it. Anaheim, Murrieta, Norco. So we're not alone in this. But I sent each one of you an email recently, and I was I want to thank Mr. Haley for replying to that email. On a more generic term, the term God really, to me, covers a broad base of religions. It's not so specific about maybe a Christianity, but I think most people who have a religious belief refer to their God as their somebody who has maybe more superior power and understanding than themselves. And I would like to think that the City of Corona Council would want to display that for the reason that it gives the people a feeling that in times of trouble, when they're dealing with morality or issues in the city that maybe involve ethics, they're looking to a higher source for that, maybe that information or that motive rather than themselves. And I think it's important that we do look at God as being somebody higher than ourselves. We have to have that, hopefully have that opinion about what God represents. There's many things that I feel as a Christian, I'd like to think that people who have a religious belief have contributed majorly to the society. And I'd like to think that most people have a pretty good understanding and trust in those people that demonstrate that. Through their caring and giving, it's evident around the world that people who have a Christian or a God belief have been very willing to give their time, their money, and their efforts in many areas that are in need and not just in Corona but all over. This statement, it's hard to understand why it would be offensive, only because it is on our money, and if anybody's offended by that, it hasn't stopped them from using it. So, we see this all over the place. It's written everywhere, and for us to not take this seriously and to consider that Corona, it would be, I think, a positive effort made that, again, would demonstrate to the city, the people here, that again, they're relying on somebody or something greater than themselves. And
Thank you for sharing.
I appreciate your
this
time.
evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do want to indicate anyone following the